Alright, so today's movie review is Little Women from 1949 from director Mervyn LeRoy. Some essential movie details about this film. In addition to being pregnant with her first biological child, June Allyson also adopted her first child while this movie was in production. After Allyson learned that her daughter, Pamela Powell, had arrived for the first time at her home, she immediately left the set without asking permission and raced home to hold her daughter. And this is her adopted daughter. She returned later that day and told the rest of the cast and crew the joyous news. Another detail, all of the sisters, June Allyson, Margaret O'Brien, Elizabeth Taylor, and Janet Leigh, reportedly got along terrifically like a real sorority. Allyson, who is several years older than most of her co-stars, managed to relate to the younger women and form strong bonds with them. Alright, so those are behind-the-scenes details about this film. So now I'll link into my thoughts on the plot. The plot, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought it's a good story overall. I mean, there's a reason why it keeps getting rebooted, right? But the structure of this is the exact same as the 1933, almost shot for shot. I just couldn't help but make comparisons to that, which I really like. I like that one a lot. I think it's a much more superior version of this storyline. And so to me, this just doesn't have the same level of the magic and connection that is in the 33 one, you know. To me, I wasn't as devastated when Beth died, for example. Because in the original one, you really saw how pure and innocent she was. In this, I mean, yes, she's a little kid, but I don't know, I just didn't feel the same connection with the actresses in this movie as I did with the 30s one. And also, I do not like June Allyson as Jo, and I'll get into that for the acting, but she's in most of the film, and it really, really brings down the overall enjoyability and experience of the film for me. And so, with that, let's talk about the acting. So the acting, I also gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought the rest of the cast was fine, you know, did good, met their marks and whatnot. But to me, June Allyson is just atrocious. I don't know what it is. Is it her acting style? Is it her voice? I don't know what it is. I just did not like her performance, especially when you compare it to Katharine Hepburn's. Katharine Hepburn, I think, is the perfect Jo overall for the Little Women storyline. And so when you have that, and then you have June Allyson's performance, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to go with Katharine. I mean, it's no questions there. You know, I don't know. I don't think June was a good choice. I actually think she would have fit better as Meg. I think that was Elizabeth Taylor's character. She seemed more of that. And then Elizabeth Taylor should have been Jo. I think the actresses should have been switched. I think Elizabeth Taylor would have been a much more believable Jo, in my opinion. Also, she's not as annoying. I don't know. She just doesn't... June Allyson doesn't cut the mustard for me. I thought everyone else was fine. You know, Janet Leigh, she was fine as, I think she's Amy or Meg. I get the names mixed up. But she was fine. Mary Astor as Marmee is great. Elizabeth Taylor was good. Honestly, I feel bad because it's a little girl who's playing Beth, but I just thought the actress who played Beth in the 30s one was so much better, you know, in the sense of you feel connected to her, you know, you want her to live, right? You feel awful that she's dying, and it's like, how of all the sisters, why her, right? Because she's like the most innocent and pure. This Beth, I don't know, it's probably just the abilities. I believe it was Margaret O'Brien. I don't remember her name, but the actress who plays her just wasn't as convincing, and I think it's just due to the fact she was a child actor. Just wasn't a good one yet. But so with that, that's why I give it a 3 out of 5. Alright, let's move on to directing. So the directing, I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well. I thought Mervyn LeRoy, he did just fine. Nothing terrible, but nothing super either. This just feels exactly the same as the 30s one. I really wish he had a totally different approach to it, different vision. I mean, you know, with different actors and whatnot, it's going to be different, but I'm not joking. Like, some of the scenes were shot for shot exactly the same. And I couldn't help but think, you know, why is this exactly the same? This came out 16 years after the other one. Maybe to get people interested in the story again? I don't know, but I think he could have done a much better and different version of the film. I really liked his film 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, and Little Caesars okay, but I really like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, so I was a little disappointed that he didn't do a great film here. And so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. Alright, for cinematography and special effects, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Being that it's basically shot for shot the same movie, I still thought they did really good here. I mean, the film is in color. Overall, I thought it was very beautiful looking, and I thought the costumes looked great too and whatnot. But again, some of the camera angles were exactly the same. I was like, wait, I've seen this movie before. I don't know, because there are other films I've seen that were a remake of the original, of an original film that don't look exactly the same in this era, if that makes sense. Like, what's an example? I can't think of one at the moment, but I was just very disappointed with this cinematography. It's like, they could have done something more interesting and more different, because even some of the set pieces, like the kitchen where they're having Christmas breakfast and all of that, it looks exactly the same. It was crazy to me. So I don't know if that's lazy or that's just creativity. I don't know. And that's why I gave it a 3.5. A 3.5, because it looked good, but it's like, but I've seen it before. So there you go. All right, now talking about the music, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought Rossano Brossi, I think that's how you say his name, he plays the professor. I liked his singing, in the German and also in English, and playing the piano and all that. I thought that was fine. If that's his voice, I didn't check if he actually sang or not, but I thought that was fine. But there's one scene at the beginning of the movie where Joe is writing her play, and they're singing this pirate song or whatever. Oh, I almost turned off the film because I just cannot stand June Allyson and her hamming it up and the music and her singing, and I got really close to turning it off. I didn't, but I got very close. So I was very bothered by the music. Now the score, for the background and whatnot is fine. It's nothing that really stands out, though. It's nothing different, I would say. So keep that in mind. It's not one that you're going to remember. It's pretty forgettable. And so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. Alright, so tallying that all up, that brings my Letterboxd score to a 3.1 out of 5, which I'm rounding to a 3 out of 5. And that brings my Criticalist score to 62%. So would I recommend this movie? No. I think you should stick to the 1933 film with Katharine Hepburn. She's fantastic as Jo. And I think the other sisters are just as good in that too. Now, I haven't seen the 1994 or the 2019 films, so I don't know overall which adaptation is my favorite of the more famous ones. So I won't speak for them, but as of right now, the 1933 is my favorite. June Allyson is terrible. Really brings the film down for me. And I just think she was miscast. I really think Elizabeth Taylor would have made a better Jo than she did. And again, it's a shot for shot the same thing. There's very few deviations and changes. And to me, that's like, well, then they were just playing it safe. They weren't going to take any risks or any changes, which sometimes are good, sometimes are bad. So, yeah, that's overall, those are my thoughts on the film of Little Women from 1949. And with that, that's today's movie review.